It's been a long day, a long day. It's been a long day, a long day. And I just wanna breathe. It's been a broad stroke, long list of one more thing. It's been a broad stroke, a long list of one more thing. And I just wanna breathe when you do those things. When you do those things, you do. Will you run the risk of leaving no time to breathe? It's been a crazy, crazy afterfeel. It's been a crazy, crazy afterfeel. And I just wanna breathe. It's been a long year, it's been a long time since I sat in the trees and I had a good cry. And I just wanna breathe. When you do those things, when you do those things, you do. Will you run the risk of leaving no time, leaving no time to It's been a good run, your rise to the top. It's been 1,000 miles since your last rest stop. It's been a lot of putting offs, figured out somehow. There's a lot of maybe wins, but never right now. And I just wanna breathe. And I just wanna breathe. When you do those things, when you do those things, So what's the I behind the I? And who's the me behind the I through which I see? Am I the watcher, or is there something else that's one to be seen through me? 'Cause I've accumulated all these things, artifacts, possessions, names they try to tell a tale of me, but I am holding on to thinking there's a little bit more to the story. Well, I know I'm not the name you say, the things I own, the roles I play. I know there's something breathing in me. So if you take away my name and you take away these things, you're left with only awesomeness, the essence that I came here with, the everything, the I know you want to snap your fingers. I stand my conviction strong and clear, 'cause I admit to listening to these whispers in my ear. You might call me crazy, but you know you do it too. 'Cause you know that there's a voice behind the voice in you. Well, I know I'm not the name you say, the things I own, the characters I play. I know there's something breathing in me. 'Cause if you take away my name and you take away these things, you're left with only awesomeness, the essence that I came here with, the everything, the I am, the I am. But I know I'm not the moon that my fingers point to, and I know that I'm not separate from any one of you. It's an elementary game, an energy exchange, the raging river, life's grand giver of everything that I am. Life's expression, soul-bound connection, pure reflection of all that is divine. I am the muse, I am imbued with the golden hue of light. Well, I am love, it's what I'm of. I am above, I am below. There's so much I know. I am this moment, I'm in that moment, I'm everywhere, no beginning, no end. And it's weaving in you, breathing in me, it is ever present, everything I am. And it's weaving in you, breathing in me, it is ever present, everything I am. And I am, you are, and we be. That sounds like a sing-along. I am, you are, we be. Now sing it to the one on your right side. I am, you are, we be. Now your other right side. I am, you are, we be. Let's send one out to all of Columbia, Maryland. I am, you are, we be. Let's send one out to Washington, D.C. I am, you are, we be. One out to the Syria, Middle East. to the one who's been carrying us around all these years. Real sweet. I am, you are, we be.
This is the God box. That gets opened at the end. Actually, it gets opened at the beginning. We're going to begin with something called toning. Toning is a practice that goes back for thousands of years in many cultures, especially in indigenous cultures like the Aborigines, the Lakota, Semitic Near Eastern cultures, African cultures. What toning is you take a word that would be considered, you could really do it with any word, but you take a word that is considered sacred and you elongate the vowel sounds, focusing on the feminine, which is the vowel. Letting the masculine part soften, such as Y, A, E, I, O, U, and sometimes Y. The reason Y is only sometimes a vowel is because sometimes it's masculine, which is ya, and sometimes it's feminine, which is ye. Okay? The sound we're going to make sounds very simple. Aoun, aoun. The ah sound and then O-O-N, aoun. Almost like ohm, but instead of an M, we're using an N. So say that once, aoun. What we're going to do is we're just going to tone this 3 times. I'll tone it once so you'll understand what I mean by toning. The gist with toning is let go of the sound that's coming out of your mouth. Put your focus on where you're bringing it from. If you start to think about the creations in your life. This is what this afternoon is essentially about. When we start to grok at what seems to be the manifestation or what seems to be the projection of what seems to be real, what's actually the projection of consciousness, and you start trying to hammer and nail things out here, like actions, the physical things that we're doing, rather than where it's coming from, then you start bringing something into being that says something's wrong and I need to fix it. So what starts coming from the center of your being at that point is something's wrong and I need to fix it. If you just let the sound be exactly as it is and you bring your focus to where it's coming from, that it's coming through consciously and in presence, the sound takes care of itself. To give you a little bit of a hint with that, there's no word in Aramaic for effect. Effect doesn't exist. It's one process. Unfortunately, in the West, we say cause and effect. You see it all over in a lot of teachings. There's no such thing as effect. It's all cause. And a lot of times what we observe as effect is actually a digital projection of my analog consciousness. We'll talk about that this afternoon. So the sound is simply aoun. Let me tone once, and then we'll do it 3 times together. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to last forever. You don't have to turn blue in the face at the end of it. If that's something that you like, and you give it a shot. And then I'm going to move right into the Aramaic prayer of Yeshua, what's known as the Lord's Prayer, okay? So let me tone once, just listen, and then we'll do it 3 times together. Notice that it's just one feminine flow. 3 times, okay? one more, then you can rest in silence. Let this one ring out wide open with power, clarity, focus, and intent. Not forcing, but wide open, full open presence, okay? Abun Voshmeya Nitkadash Shmach Tete Malkutoch Nehwe Tsivyana Gaikana Voshmeya Ap Ba'arha Hablen Lachman de Sun Kanan Yomana Washwachlen Halbein Wach Dahain I Kanadap Hanan Shwaken Lachayabain Wala Tahlan Lenesiune Ila Patsan Minbisha Metu Didelaki Malkuthik Wahela Watishbukda Lalam Almin Amen. It's up to you if you want to come back to the room or if you want to just be in that open, diffused state. How do you feel right now? Did it matter that you didn't really know what I was saying? It's about the energy. And it's not even about the energy of the sound. It's about where it's coming from. Are you awake? Attention to your breath. I always love to begin with a line from St. Francis of Assisi. He said, "What you are looking for is what is looking." The peace, the love, the presence, the perfection, the abundance, the prosperity, the essence, the emanation of living law is the consciousness that sees through you. Anybody ever heard of a guy named Pope Francis? Anybody slightly inspired by this guy? A great example of a system, a structure that literally looks like it's hobbling on its last legs, and out of seemingly nowhere, this person comes in, and at first, a lot of us are like, I don't know, he's still one of them. You keep watching, and he says this. It's like, what did he say? What was that? Especially for me, it's like, and he said, what? Back in, I believe it was October, he said that rigid religious ideology is the direct result of a lack of true prayer, meaning that a person recites memorized words rather than truly praying from one's heart. The word religion comes from the Latin root religio, which means to religament, to find the filaments, to find the connections, to reveal the place where things are interconnected and entangled and interspersed. Doesn't have much to do with modern religion, does it? There's two aspects of the word prayer in Aramaic. The word is slota. It has two different nuances of meaning. One form of slota is this, that you have a vision and you hold that vision, not believing that it's going to manifest, because if you believe it's going to manifest, you believe it doesn't exist. If you use the word attract, I'm attracting this, you're believing that there's something you need to attract, and you're believing something doesn't exist. That might push spiritual book publishers' buttons, because I know the word attract sells a lot of books. But it's an illusion. It's not seeing the entire whole process of being. It's just cutting it in two pieces and thinking something's coming together. Nothing's coming together because it was never pulled apart. The first aspect of slota in Aramaic is that as you hold the vision, ruha, the essence of the cosmos, the universe, the fractal expands. Anything you believe, including anything you don't want to believe. I'm not angry, I'm not sad. The subconscious mind doesn't pick up not, and it expands. No matter what you really feel. The word manifest, does anybody know what manifest means? And don't say bring into being. Don't say to create. That's not what manifest means. In Latin, the word means obvious. Uses the word hand. What's pretty obvious on your body when it's in your face? Your hand. It's as obvious as the hand. In the beginning of the Gospel of John, when it says everything that existed or nothing came through into existence except through his hands. That word hand in Aramaic is beyada, which means an extension of itself. Not God the dude is standing here and making stuff with his hands. Speaking of literality and prayer, we got here, had an amazing treatment in the back, and then I got dragged into the closet up front. I think because the security guy came, I think they thought I was a vagrant that was loitering, the hippie vagrant. Just look for the guy with like the San Francisco kind of shirt. And they drug me up into the front closet, and I'm like, I understand, like I do translations of Jesus stuff, but I think when he said in your closet, that's not exactly what he was saying. But that word closet actually in Aramaic is tawanak, which means from the center of your being. You knew that already. I didn't have to tell you that. Now, the second aspect of slota, the first is that you have a vision and you hold it. Now, let me complete the manifest statement. I don't care what your words say. I don't care what your affirmations are. I don't care whatever it is that you say. What manifests is what is obvious to you. So as an example, if you are constantly using an affirmation of I am rich, or let's try an even better one, I am fully loved in all areas of my life. But what you really feel is I am not fully loved in all areas of my life. And 3% of your being is focused on your affirmation. 97% will shake loose. Read Ernest Holmes. Dig into the science of mind. He talks very deeply about, and it was actually what was the original basis of the first Secret movie, but that was all edited out. Now, when you have that vision, it expands. There's another aspect of prayer, slota in Aramaic. It doesn't mean that you have a vision that you're focused on and seeking to create. It means almost as if you open up a couple systems of antennae, that you open up a receptor site in your consciousness, not for a specific vision, but just in an openness, and then life can live and birth through you. It's a natural expansion. The only thing that can birth through you, of course, is what's obvious to you. You know those statements, Yeshua made a lot of statements like, I am the way and the truth and the life, I am the bread of life, I am the gate, which also means portal or doorway. Interesting. Do you think he was talking about himself? I talked about this the last time I was here. Do you think when he says, I am, he's saying, I, Jesus, am the bread of life, I, Jesus, am the light of the world? This was a word that couldn't be translated into Greek because they had no way to translate it into Koine Greek, basic biblical Greek. They didn't have a way of translating it. If he was talking about himself, he would use this word here. It sounds like this, ana. Ana. Ana means I, Dale. As an example, he said, Ana, or Inad, Wabi, Chad Hanan, which is I and God are one. me, Jesus, and what you think of as a separate God are actually one and the same. And he could have easily said, and so are you, which he did in other places. He didn't say, as an example, I, Jesus, am the light of the world, ina nuhra de alma. He didn't say that in Aramaic. What he actually said was, ina nuhra de alma, inanna. That's what's written down. So I don't see one ina, or technically, if it's pronounced properly, it's Anna. So if you know anybody with the name Anna, it's the Aramaic word I. It doesn't say Anna, it says Anna. If one of them means I, what are two? Literally, without changing it or adding something. If you've got one, it means I. What would two of them on the page mean? I. Now, one thing that sometimes I'll often hear is we. But we would be changing what's on the page. And it would also be believing in a separation that's not there in the word. Now, that word, when you've got it twice, looks like this. Anna. Now, what I see when I look on the page is Anna. But the way I pronounce it in Aramaic is enana, as one single word. I don't say Anna, I say inanna. I pronounce it as one singular word, one singular vision, but I'm actually seeing two. That's actually a pretty deep experience in Aramaic. It's not I, Jesus, am the light of the world, but the I within the I is the light of the world. It becomes I am, or more literally, I am I. This is the I at the center of all things. Your center is my center. In the words of Crazy Horse, Tashunka Witko from the Lakota, he said, I salute the light within your eyes where the whole universe dwells, because when you are at that center within you and I'm at that place within me, we are one. This is me, Dale I. This is I. This I is this I. This is the I that's lost in worldly things. It forgets. It thinks that some future moment is more important than this moment now, that some future circumstance, creation, thing, acquisition, possession, relationship, experience will somehow be more important than this moment. So what's manifesting for me in this moment when I'm in that state of future? This moment's not good enough. So what keeps growing in me? What's obvious? This moment's not good enough. This is the light of the world. I am a projection into this world, but I am not of this world. In this world, but not of it. Pay attention to your breath. Take a breath in through your nose. You don't have to understand a thing I'm saying. You just need to feel it. Ever listen to Eckhart Tolle? You stay focused for about, 32 seconds. And then all of a sudden you realize 20 minutes has passed and you're in this deep state of presence. And you're like, what did he say? You forgot he was even talking. The I within the I. Within the center of everything, there is an undercurrent, the I within the I, an undercurrent of an unchanging, still peace. That undercurrent is actually who you are in actuality. What we are seeing, all this physicality, is a digital projection of an analog source. Anybody ever seen The Matrix? Especially the first one. Although all three had depths in them. In the third one, they were fighting to go back to Zion and get control of it so that the digital world couldn't take it over. Zion in Hebrew means projection. It means to project. It's actually a letter in Hebrew and a letter in Aramaic. The realization is that if the digital world, the fake, illusory world, gets a hold of the core, which it can't in truth, then that digital projection becomes the thing that's real, but it's not. And that's like basically, there's the essence of the Matrix, is the I within the I, okay? Now here's the thing, what digital means. Digital is is basically a stream of small fragments or samples that, in other words, we're reading everything in the room. Our mind is pulling out 6 tiny little bits, or nine tiny little bits out of millions and millions of possible pieces of information and building my reality from an ultra small, tiny, small perception of everything that's going on. And then it builds it all in my mind. Okay? Now, I'm going to go a little bit further than this. I'm not trying to teach you. Well, maybe I am, but what's that? Theory of relativity. Now, I want to give you a quote. Space and time are interconnected and entangled within each other. They are relative, and they can expand and contract in direct relationship, take a breath, with the velocity and the intensity of the observer. Time and space become elastic. They can stretch, and they can shrink down to such a small, minute thing that it feels like you're never going to get the 1,000 things done that you need to get done today. Anybody have the perception in the last couple of years that time was moving quicker? Interesting. There's one thing that's unchanged, though, and remains fixed. What's that? There's one thing that's unaffected by relativity. Light. Light is the undercurrent. Now, here's the thing. When you go really deep into Albie's work, hey, he lived in New Jersey. I can say that I'm from Jersey originally. So, when you go really deep into his work, you start seeing amazing things, such as, do you realize that when you get closer to Jupiter, time slows down the closer you get to it? The more mass that an object has, the more focused mass of energy, the slower things appear to be around it. And they talk about a black hole, how we can observe a black hole from far away. And if someone was around the edge of a black hole, it would feel like, 8 minutes just passed. But in fact, it was double the amount. Us observing from afar, we can't tell. You ever notice those people in the world that seem like they can accomplish 10 times what you accomplish when you're observing them? You know what? Where they are, it's exactly the same amount of time. But they're so wholly, whole being, not even consumed, but emanating that perfection of the universe, that literally time can become elastic and time can stand still and they can get done whatever they need to get done. Because when you have the idea that there's not enough time, there's not enough money, I don't have enough, I need something else in order to be whole, perfect, complete, and happy, that's the very thing that you manifest. But when you are whole and perfect and complete, time stands still. Stephen Hawking, another great physicist, a man of many words through a machine, but says that if you stand next to the Great Pyramid in Giza, time is actually slower next to the pyramid than it is far away because it's an object of great mass. Doesn't necessarily mean big, but it is exactly as it is. The pyramid is the pyramid. It's very solid. Do you ever notice when you're around like a spiritual master or someone who is very solid spiritually, that time feels almost like as if it slows down when you're in their presence? And then you get back out into the world and everything's like this frenetic breakneck pace that you can't seem to crack the code of how you can fit everything into that. Even though it feels like it's going by so fast, you can't keep up. You don't have to keep up. You are not that. You are that. A projection into this world, though I am not of it. If you're out here trying to create something physical in your life, rather than realizing that you are the manifestation of all perfect wholeness, peace, poise, power, love, presence, You'll never have enough. You'll never be able to create the thing that will fulfill you. You know how like when you're a kid and you get that one great... Well, there's an exception to this, maybe. Our little girl got a... you know what I always wanted when I was a kid? I wanted one of those sort of like motorized things. They just started coming out in the 70s, and I remember my neighbor Wade got one, and I was like, oh my God, I want one of those. So our little girl, Shemaiah, she's 2.5, got one of those this year. It's a Dora-mobile. And it doesn't stop, so you will move. Because it's funny, I should have brought video of this. She'll actually literally like lay back like this and hit the button and just start blasting over everything in her path, not even looking at it. And it's actually pretty cool to watch. It's not so great when it rolls over your toes, but it's you know how there's that one thing you wanted and you finally got it, and then it felt so hollow and vacuous, like there was just nothing there? How many times do you have to go through that experience before you realize it's not about the stuff? Anybody who, I'm not a grandparent yet, but anyone who's a grandparent could relate. You know, when they're your kids, they're just little freaking demonic heathens. I do remember, it was about 14 and a half years ago, and I'm in Tampa with my wife and at that time, my daughter Lucinda, who was only a few months old, and we're with Wayne Dyer, who I had known for many years at that point. And he's like, you know, Dale, you think she's really cute now. He's like 9.5 feet tall, and he's lifting her over his head, you know. And he's like, you think she's really cute now, but wait till she reaches the age of demonic possession. And I'm like, well, when's that? He's like, you'll know. Said her hip is going to get this swing to it. He said it's right around 13 or 14. I haven't talked with him in quite a while, probably about 10 years, and want to tell him, you know, it didn't happen at 13 or 14. It actually happened around 11. He raised a lot of daughters, though. Now, this is from Ernest Holmes. The I Am, this is from the 1926, the original Science of Mind text. The I Am was revealed to Moses as the one and only real mind or power in the universe, that beside which there is no other. I Am is another way of saying God. I Am in man is the life of man. Without this I Am, humans could not be. So what do you put after your I Ams? I'm sick. Or let's try this one. I'm not sick. What does your subconscious mind pick up? I am sick. It doesn't pick up negatives. I'm not angry. I'm not pissed off. You know, and you can see the steam going out their ears like Curly or Shemp or one of the Stooges. An incredibly beautiful, inspired being of light. Does anybody know who this is? It's Howard Thurman. Howard Thurman. Before I talk about him, I want to give you the one quote that has stuck with me for decades now, about 2.5 decades since I was a teenager, from Thoreau. Many of you know what I'm going to say before I say it. If one advances confidently in the direction of his own dreams and endeavors to live the life which he has imagined, he will meet with a success unexpected in common hours. You know the feeling of presence you get near a cathedral? Why do you get that? It's because of the spiritual energy. It's also because of the intent of that structure. The pyramid has great intent. The pyramid is incredibly focused, the great pyramids. It's more than just physical mass. I'm talking about something on a much deeper level here. When you're around those people who are completely lit up and they're wide open. What's the one thing that you know you are here for in this world? Is it just being an accountant? Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. How great do you think it would have been to drag Martin Luther King out of the front lines of the civil rights movement and make them a mechanic? Anybody have a mechanic that's truly inspired? And it's like when they talk to you about gizmos and whizzers, and of course none of those are in a car, but all that stuff, and they're passionate and they light up. How successful do you think they would be in terms of true fulfillment and happiness if you drug them from under the hood of the car and put them out in front of the civil rights movement? Do you understand what I'm saying? You're here for something. You know what it is. If you tell me you don't, you're not being completely honest. You know what it is. You may not know it here, but what is it that lights you up? What's the one thing? And it doesn't have to be something physical like, mucking stalls at a horse farm or something. Well, it could be. Every once in a while you meet the person at the coffee shop, or just someone on the New York City is a great example. Every once in a while in New York, someone will catch my eye and they're like completely present. And there's almost like this elastic taffy of like ultra presence that lingers on me, and I never even talk to the person. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's a person on purpose. What does it mean to be on purpose? To be now. Fully, wholly present right now. When you're whole and you're complete and present in this moment, which is whole and present and complete, everything else takes care of itself. That doesn't mean you don't have a vision, but the yearn isn't there. Because if you have a yearn, then you have a belief about it. You don't have faith. Faith in Aramaic meant to act from the rooted center, consciously acting from the rooted center of being, ha'imanuta. Not that I believe in something or I have faith that this is going to come into being, but I am faith. And I act from that. Howard Thurman, a great leader who was very well known as a leader of the civil rights movement, had a statement that you've probably heard before. He said, "Don't ask what the world needs. Find out what makes you come alive and go do that. Because what the world needs now is people who have come alive." Because when you are whole and the energy is flooding. When you are whole and you are complete and you are the natural empathetic vibration of the one living system of being, it manifests through you. And the laws of the supposedly known universe will bend and twist and become elastic around you, and you will no longer be an effect of those laws, but in fact will create your own laws from within the center point of your being, which is the center point of the cosmos. What are you here to do? It could just be you're here to be here. And if you're fully present in this moment, the next moment will take care of itself. And the next moment, because they don't exist. All that exists is this now, where the I is within the I, where me, Dale, is the projection into the world, though I am not of it. No matter what you do, never mind the physicality of it, bring it from the center. Bring it through in presence. Bring it through not as in a lack that I need to do this before I'll feel complete. Bring it through as completion, because you started from completion. You were born whole. You were born complete. One last little piece I want to leave you. Anybody ever seen Monsters, Inc. before? Great movie. Sully and Mike Wazowski, which is Billy Crystal, which is a big green eyeball with 2 feet. But it's amazing how they basically consume and collect children's screams and fears and phobias, and they create electricity in the monster world, in the monster dimension, by human children's screams. And there's a point in the middle where this human girl ends up with Mike Wazowski, which is Billy Crystal, and Sully, which is John Goodman, the big blue monster. And she all of a sudden freaks out. And she's going, "Rah!" And she has this screech that my daughter Shemaiah has the screech. It's stratospheric. Literally, we'll all go like this, but here's the thing. When you put your fingers in your ears when a child is screaming, what do in response? And they amp it up even more. Well, Boo does this scream, and like all the energy and the whole city surges and dead, nothing, no power. And they're like, what was that? They end up finding out that human laughter by the end of the movie was actually, 10 times more powerful and potent than their fears? But there's this point where Mr. Waternoose, who's James Coburn, is training these new recruits with how to scare human children. And they're in sort of like in the laboratory with these little, it's almost like puppets, going through the motions. And Mr. Waternoose is telling these guys, look, it's not about what you're doing. It's about presence. It's about how you enter the room. And here comes Sully, who's the greatest scarer in Monsters, Inc. history. And he's like, come on, Sully, roar. He's like, yeah, but Mr. Waternoose, I need you. He's like, roar, Mr. Waternoose. He's like, roar. And he goes, has anybody ever seen that one? That moment? My hair is up on my arm because the entire screen goes, wah! I mean, it's incredible, his roar, because he was 100% fully present in that moment. That's what you need to do. I'm not saying you need to go out and roar in people's faces. Wait a second. But what I'm saying is this. Just do what lights you up. Don't spend 20 years studying something to find out how you can fit into the world and find your puzzle piece so that you can make money and be a part of the world and see what the world needs. Do what you're here for. Do what makes you come alive, because that's what the world needs. Let's make 2014 not just another year. Let's make this the year where we actually stand up and do it and we live it. When does it start? It starts now. How does it start now? By you are the eye within the eye. You are the light of the world. If you intersperse and emanate that light with your actions, your being, your deeds in this world, that's what it meant to be in a new earth. We are the ones we have been waiting for. You already know what it is. Thank you very much. Y'all have been beautiful and open and wrapped. Not wrapped as in like in a package, but R-A-P-T. Thank you. It's been my honor to be here. Please come back this afternoon.
I just wanted to say, I hope you come to the workshop. I'll be playing a few songs. And Dale and I are doing a whole weekend in July together down in Asheville, and you're invited. What makes you come alive? What's your music? And this is dedicated to Reverend Sally, because you've done so much for me, and I just want to send you off. Won't you sing us all your songs? Sing us all your songs. Sing us all your songs that you know. Won't you sing us all your songs? Sing us all your songs. You gotta sing us all your songs before you go. Don't die with your music, your sweet, sweet music. Don't die with your music. You gotta leave it all behind. Leave it all behind. Leave it all behind. For the others coming along, you gotta leave it all behind. Leave it all behind. You gotta leave it all behind. Cause we wanna hear your song. Don't die with your music, your sweet, sweet music. Don't die with your music. Well, we're gonna sing along. We're gonna clap our hands. Our hearts will be dancing just like you never know. Well, if you think you got it going on, then let it out. Well, if you think you got it going on, then pour it out. Pour it on and let We can't do this on our bucks. We gotta get up on our feet. Hold on and let it out. Well, you gonna feel much better. Pour it on and let it out. Don't die with your music, your sweet, sweet music. Don't die with your music. You know this part. Well, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, well, I'm gonna let it shine. Well, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Take me home. Don't die with your music, sweet, sweet music. Don't die with your music. Don't die with your music, your sweet music. Don't die.